classroom was silent as Mrs. Smith handed out the students' homework. She then wrote a long word on the whiteboard, plenipotentiary. Turning to the class, she said, "Boys and girls, this is one of the hardest words in the English language. Your task is to use it correctly in a sentence. Whoever does it will get a month off from homework." She smiled and gave an example. Like this: in the middle of the circle was a large teardrop-shaped flower garden. See? Easy for flower, but not so easy for plenipotentiary. The class sat in stunned silence, staring at the impossible word, until Darryl, widely known as the slowest kid in the class, raised his hand. The room gasped. Even Mrs. Smith couldn't hide her shock. "Darryl, are you sure? You struggle with simple spelling tests." Darryl just grinned. "Yes, miss, here's my sentence." In the classroom, the teacher shouted out the word plenipotentiary. The room burst into laughter. But Mrs. Smith sighed. He wasn't wrong. Darryl walked home that day proud and homework-free for a whole month. At school, little Johnny saw little Susie and asked, "Hey, Susie, will you climb the flagpole for $1?" Susie thought about it and said, "Sure." She climbed to the top, then came back down and happily took the $1. That evening, Susie told her mother how she made $1 climbing the flagpole. Her mom frowned and said, "Susie, don't do that again. Johnny just wanted to see your underwear." The next day, Johnny tried again. "Susie, I'll give you $2 if you climb the flagpole." Tempted, Susie agreed, climbed up and took the money. Again, she told her mother, who was furious. "Susie, I told you, he just wants to see your underwear." On the third day, Johnny upped the ante. $5 this time." Susie smiled and climbed the flagpole once more. That night, when she told her mom she made $5, her mother lost it. "Susie, why would you do it again? He just wants to see your underwear." A wealthy lawyer in a small town was notorious for never donating to charity. The local animal shelter, knowing he owned a dog, saw an opportunity. Hoping to tug at his heartstrings, they knocked on his door. When he answered, a volunteer smiled and said, "Mr. Smith, we know you're a successful man, and we've noticed you never give to charity. Wouldn't you love to support an organization that helps dogs just like yours?" The lawyer stared at her and said, "Do you know that both my parents are battling life-threatening illnesses with medical bills far beyond their means?" The woman hesitated. "Oh, I didn't..." He cut her off. "Did you also know my sister's husband abandoned her and their 2 kids, leaving them penniless?" She stammered. I had no idea." He continued, "And my brother, he lost both legs in the war." By now, the shelter volunteers were speechless, their faces filled with guilt. Then the lawyer smirked and delivered the final blow. "If I don't give them a cent, what makes you think you'll get one?" A man and a woman get into a terrible car accident. Both cars are completely totaled, but miraculously, neither of them is hurt. As they crawl out of the wreckage, the woman says, "Wow, look at our cars, destroyed. But we're both fine. This must be a sign that we should be friends and not blame each other." The man nods. "I couldn't agree more." She then notices an intact bottle of scotch lying on the ground. "And look at this, a bottle of scotch from my back seat, not even broken. Surely that's another sign. We should toast to our good fortune." She hands the bottle to the man. He agrees, takes a long swig and hands it back to her. She smiles, caps the bottle, and hands it back without taking a sip. The man, puzzled, asks, "Aren't you going to have any?" She grins, "Nope, I think I'll wait for the police." A recently widowed Jewish woman was sitting on a beach towel at Cocoa Beach, Florida, enjoying the ocean breeze. She noticed a distinguished-looking man around her age settling down nearby with a book. Smiling, she decided to start a conversation. "Hello, sir, how are you today?" "Fine, thank you," he replied, barely glancing up before returning to his book. "I just love the beach," she continued. "Do you come here often?" "Not really," he said. "First time since my wife passed away last year." "I'm sorry to hear that," she said sincerely. "Do you live around here?" "Yeah, over in Suntree," he responded, eyes still on the pages. Determined to spark his interest, she thought for a moment and then asked, "Do you like pussycats?" Without hesitation, the man threw his book aside, leaped onto her towel, and gave her the most passionate ride of her life. As they lay there, catching their breath, Sarah gasped, "Oh my, how did you know? That's exactly what I wanted." The man grinned and replied, "How did you know my name was Katz?" One day, all the organs of the body got together to decide who should be in charge. The brain spoke first. "I should be in charge," it declared confidently. "I control every function in the body. Without me, nothing would happen." The heart interrupted. "Hold on, I should be the boss. I pump life-giving oxygen and nutrients to every part of the body. Without me, you'd all stop working." Then the stomach chimed in. "You two are nothing without me. I process the food that gives us energy. No fuel, no function." The legs took a stand, literally. "You all might do your jobs, but without me, the body wouldn't go anywhere. I move us forward." The eyes rolled. "Seriously? Without me, you wouldn't even know where you're going. I should be in charge." Finally, the anus quietly spoke up. "I think I should be the boss." There was dead silence, and then laughter. Loud, uncontrollable laughter. "You?" scoffed the brain. "You're just responsible for waste." The heart chuckled. "You're literally at the bottom of the hierarchy." The anus, humiliated but undeterred, simply shut down. At first, no one noticed. But soon the brain developed a splitting headache, the stomach swelled with discomfort, the legs grew weak and wobbly, the eyes blurred with tears, and the heart strained to pump toxic blood through the system. Panicked, all the organs held an emergency meeting. Together they agreed, okay, the anus is in charge. Moral of the story? It doesn't matter how important or smart you are. If the a-hole shuts down, everything goes to crap. And often, it's the a-hole who ends up running the show. A woman rushed into a veterinarian's office, cradling her beloved pig in her arms. The poor animal looked peaceful, too peaceful. "My pig, I think something's wrong," the woman stammered, her eyes welling up. The vet gently took the pig and placed him on the exam table. After a quick check, she sighed and turned to the woman. "I'm so sorry, but your pig has passed away." The woman's face turned pale. "What? No, are you sure? He could be unconscious or in a coma. Did you run any tests?" The vet, seeing the woman's distress, nodded sympathetically. "All right, let me run a couple more checks to be certain." She left the room and returned moments later with a black Labrador retriever. The dog approached the motionless pig, sniffed him thoroughly from snout to tail, then looked up at the vet and gently shook his head before walking out of the room, tail low. Still, the woman looked unconvinced. The vet disappeared again and returned with a cat. The feline gracefully hopped onto the table, sat next to the pig, and stared intently at him for several minutes. After a long pause, the cat let out a loud meow, hopped down, and padded out. The vet sighed and turned to the woman. "I hope that clears things up. Your pig has definitely passed." Reluctantly, the woman accepted the truth. But when the vet handed her a bill for $300, she gasped. $300? Just to tell me my pig died? The vet shrugged. "Well, my initial diagnosis was only $40, but then you insisted on a lab report and a CAT scan." An old man, known for his lifelong obsession with saving money, found himself on his deathbed. He had spent his entire life pinching pennies, hoarding wealth, and pushing people away, all for the sake of his bank account. Friendless and frail, he was surrounded by the only people left in his life, his priest, his doctor, and his lawyer. As his final breaths drew near, he made a strange request. "I know they say you can't take your money with you," he rasped, "but I want to prove them wrong. I'm giving each of you an envelope with $50,000. When they lower my casket into the ground, I want you to throw these envelopes in with me so I can take my fortune to the afterlife." The three men, caught off guard but bound by the moment, solemnly agreed. The old man passed away soon after, and the funeral proceeded as planned. Just as the casket was about to be buried, each man stepped forward and dropped an envelope into the grave. Later that day, over coffee, the three gathered and couldn't help but discuss the bizarre request. The doctor spoke first, sheepish. "I have to confess, I didn't put in the full $50,000. I've been needing a vacation, so I only threw in $40,000. I feel guilty, but I couldn't resist." The priest sighed deeply. "I must confess, too. The church has been struggling, and we're trying to fund renovations. I only put in $25,000. It felt wrong, but I thought God would understand." The lawyer looked at them both with disgust. "I can't believe you two. How could you betray a dying man's final wish? I'll have you know I not only put in the full $50,000, but I added an extra $10,000 from my own pocket." The doctor and priest stared at him in disbelief. "Wait," the doctor said. "You threw $60,000 into that grave? Why would you do that?" The lawyer smirked, leaning back in his chair. "I didn't throw in the cash. I wrote him a check for the full amount." Two friends were out for a walk, each with their dog in tow, a big burly pit bull and a tiny energetic chihuahua. As they passed a cozy-looking restaurant, the rich aroma of freshly cooked food wafted through the air. "Man, that smells incredible," said the first man, his stomach growling. "We should go in and get something to eat." His friend hesitated, eyeing their dogs. "Yeah, but they won't let us in with the dogs. What do we do?" The first man smirked, pulling a pair of sunglasses out of his pocket and slipping them on. "Relax, just follow my lead." The second man raised an eyebrow but did the same, donning his own sunglasses. The first man confidently walked up to the restaurant entrance with his pit bull. Just as he stepped inside, a waiter stopped him. "Sir, I'm sorry, but we don't allow dogs in the restaurant." The man acted shocked. "Excuse me? This is my seeing eye dog. I'm blind." The waiter blinked, looking down at the intimidating pit bull. A pit bull? As a seeing eye dog?" The man nodded, stone-faced. "Of course. I'm an important guy. I need a guide dog and protection." The waiter, unsure but unwilling to argue, let him through. A few moments later, the second man approached with his chihuahua. The waiter stopped him too. "Sir, no dogs allowed." The man adjusted his sunglasses. "This is my seeing eye dog. I'm blind." The waiter looked down at the tiny chihuahua, puzzled. "A chihuahua? Really?" The man's face twisted in shock and panic. "Wait, what? They gave me a chihuahua?"